Pittsburgh, City Commissioner Jeremy Johnson here. I'm doing this video as what will hopefully be the first in a series covering some of the issues facing the city, as well as some of the things that the City Commission talked about last Tuesday. So let's go ahead and get started. First, in non-commission meeting news, Limelight Marketing, a recent Pittsburgh startup, completed a marketing campaign for housing development in Pittsburgh that the city contracted with it to perform. The purpose of the campaign was to reach out to non-Pittsburgh developers and encourage development on the scale of entire neighborhoods rather than individual houses or plots. As a result of the campaign, 9 new developers who have never done work in Pittsburgh before expressed interest in pursuing projects within the city. While the city does have several local developers, none of them operate on the scale that the city has in mind. And the city has scale in mind because of a housing study that they conducted back in 2015, which I'll include a link for down in the description for the video, that showed that the primary obstacle in the way of improved development and growth in Pittsburgh is insufficient quality housing. Because city staff hope to speed up this process so that improved development doesn't take several decades, they decided to pursue developers of scale and encourage them to do extensive redevelopment in the city. We changed the speed limit on routes to 35 miles an hour from one end of town to the other, mostly to keep it consistent and improve safety, especially near the college and more residential neighborhoods. We set the dates for Art Walk for 2017, April 28th and August 25th, and gave them permission to operate a beer garden because art and beer just go well together. We designated the Morning Sun as the official paper for the city. Now, this may seem obvious and trivial, but it actually ends up being pretty important because the city is required to publish certain information in the official paper, such as the dates of hearings on legislation or issues and the annual budget. They publish this information in order to inform the public of it before the commission takes action. It's a way to encourage people to engage with city government. Its effectiveness is certainly debatable. How many people read the legal brief section of the classifieds in the Morning Sun? But it's the method we have available to us. We also approved several economic development measures. We voted to offer forgivable loans to NPC, who's expanding their Pittsburgh facility to create 15 new jobs, and to extend the amount of time that Limelight Marketing could continue to draw down a $50,000 loan that we approved for them last year. These funds come from the revolving loan fund, which is administered by the Economic Development Advisory Council, or EDAC for short. The city funds this program through a sales tax, and typically it has around $2 million available each year to dedicate to economic development. It's often awarded to businesses that are expanding, but it's also gone to projects such as the Lord's Diner or Block 22. Leah Posterick, who owns Signet Coffee Roasters and is the current chair of the Downtown Advisory Board, gave the first annual report for the Downtown Advisory Board. The board was created to provide a mechanism for business owners and residents of the downtown district to help craft a vision for that district. While the city has done a lot of work on economic development, having a specific focus on revitalizing downtown isn't something they've done much of until recently. In a report, Leah said that the board has done a lot of work reaching out to all of the businesses in the downtown district to make sure that everyone feels welcome, so as not to create an atmosphere of an exclusive club open only to a select few. She also stated that the board has been encouraging small but meaningful aesthetic changes, such as the street art on 6th Street that acts as a brief lesson in how municipal water works. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out. They've also been preparing for the Block 22 project, which is set to complete at the end of next summer. Now, by far the topic that took up the most time at Tuesday's meeting concerned a sidewalk project the Commission approved as part of the 2016-2017 budget last August. The Safe Routes to School project will improve and extend sidewalks near Westside and George Nettles Elementary Schools and Pittsburgh Community Middle School. It's funded through a $187,000 grant from the Kansas Department of Transportation and $46,000 from the City of Pittsburgh. The main reason that this project and others like it got adopted was the large return on investment. The city spends just under $50,000 and gets a $250,000 project that encourages active, healthier living among kids and adults who live nearby. However, several residents from South Homer Street, where one of the sidewalks will be placed to connect George Nettles to the larger arterial sidewalk on Centennial, came to Tuesday's meeting with a petition of 19 signatures expressing concern for the placement of the sidewalk. Some comments did border on the, "I don't want this in my yard," and "I never see kids walking here" variety, which can be pretty easily dismissed. If you put a sidewalk near a school, chances are pretty high that it's going to get used by kids and residents alike. However, most of the arguments focused on the part of the plan that included a mid-block crossing between Centennial and Ohio Street, citing concerns for safety. One resident pointed to the speed at which some drivers turned onto the street from Centennial, which is a much larger, faster-moving road. Others suggested that a mid-block crossing would be less visible and would incur more accidents from drivers, quote, who are always texting. The Director of Public Works, Cameron Alden, spoke to these concerns at the meeting. He said the design was created primarily to minimize the impact to citizens' property, specifically one property owner who has multiple large trees directly in the path of the sidewalk if the crossing were to be put on the corner. He pointed out that the daily traffic flow for Homer Street, even with a connection to the much busier Centennial, falls well below the threshold allowed for a mid-block crossing. The crossing design also included pedestrian-activated flashing crossing signals, which are among the most attention-getting methods available to alert drivers to pedestrians. However, he also said that the city staff are open to doing a modest redesign, and that the property owner with the trees blocking the way had said she'd be open to having them removed from her yard. The design would have to remain on Homer Street and couldn't be moved to a side street, as several residents suggested at the meeting, because funding from KDOT is contingent on the design following relatively closely to the one submitted for the grant. If it weren't to meet the requirements to receive its funding, it would defeat the purpose of pursuing the project, which is that it's incredibly cost-effective to achieve its aims. That's all for this week. Check out the video notes below for the links to the stuff I talked about in the video and my city email address. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below or send me an email. If you live in Pittsburg city limits, I represent you, so let me know what you're thinking on these or other topics. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, citizens.